Hello, everybody, and welcome to another enticing and erudite podcast of serendipitous phenomenalism. Yes, I'm continuing with my flashback to 1953 and the good old days BBC One theatre production. So, yes, I will baffle you. It was interesting that TV show went for 30 years in the UK. It was one where the audience all dressed up in period costume, and they had to pay for it out of their own pocket. It wasn't like a theatrical wardrobe made available to the public. And at one stage, they had 24,000 people on the waiting list to get into one of these performances. And Leonard Sachs was the chairman, and that. But anyway, there you go, people. Go and have a look at the good old days. It was on BBC One back in the day, and it had so many people. It had Bernard, what's his name? Was in Doctor Who. He played one of the characters.
I can't think of the name.
Bernard Cribbins. Yeah. That's it. Bernard Cribbins. He was in a few of the episodes. It was quite hilarious. But anyway, I've waffled on about enough sensationalist. Well, waffle. We'll now get on to who's on tonight's or today's episode. I won't say tonight, even though that's the time that we're recording this. So we have our usual cast of Dana.
Hello. I'm getting my dictionary out because I want to look up some of those words that you used.
I'm quite sure that Nick will usually pester me over that. She'll say, "What's that word you've used?" I've got to go look it up. So we have Joe.
Greetings, I'm exalted to be here.
Well done, well done. And, of course, there is the mad chairman himself, me, John. So what we will do is start off with our usual starter of what games did we play since last time we met. So, Dana.
Well, I was telling you, I think I was telling you last time, BGA. Now, my gaming... My gaming has been a little bit light on because I've been away with family, all of who are extremely light gamers or non-gamers.
Yeah.
And everything revolves around my 82-year-old mum, who doesn't cope well with learning new things. She likes the familiar. So right. I was forced to play Rummy Cub, which I actually don't mind. And Uno, and we have an Italian card game. Actually, you might know it, Joe. Scala 40.
Scala 40.
Yes,
Piacere.
you know that? Yep.
Sì, signora.
Scala 40. So that I grew up playing.
What about Scopa and Briscoe?
Scopa and Scopa, not Briscoe. I don't know how to play it. I need you to teach me.
Mm-hmm.
So I played a lot of that. But a couple of weeks ago, I did play a new game, which was called Cat in the Box. It's called the Quantum Trick-Taking Game, Cat in the Box.
So and like Schrodinger's cat, is it? Okay, Cat in the Box, yes.
Yeah, by Bezier Games. Plays 2 to 5 players.
Okay.
So it's a trick-taking.
And what was that like?
It's actually, I do like trick-taking games. A lot of people don't seem to like them for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why, but I do enjoy it.
Maybe because they didn't grow up in families that played traditional card games, I think.
Like 500 or something. Well, I didn't grow up with 500, but I do really like trick-taking games, and perhaps that's because my kids also like trick-taking games. We went through last year, I think it was. We went through the Crew, the Crew, which I think took us about 250 goes to get through the whole game. It was oh my God, there was a lot of fighting and carrying on anyway throughout the whole thing. But I've played the second one as well, the second version of the Crew, which is very good. Anyway, so I picked this up. It's actually really, really good. It's got a little bit more to it than just trick taking, because when you get dealt a hand of cards, they're not suited. They're numbered, and you would play the numbers as you would a normal trick-taking game where the highest number and the suit that's led wins.
Right.
But these ones are not suited. So you can pick the suit if you like in your hand. But unfortunately, only once that's picked, you have to place a little token, say on a blue 5, you place a little token there, and from that round, for the rest of the round, a blue 5 can never be played. So your chances of playing certain cards diminish as you go through the round. And you play 3 rounds. And the reason why they call it the quantum trick-taking game is because you can create a paradox, and that ends the round, where you have cards in your hand, but because of what other people have played, and the fact that you've nominated that you don't have any green cards or something like that throughout the game, it means that you've actually got cards in your hand that cannot be played, even though they've got numbers on them.
Right.
And if you create a paradox, the round ends and you get negative points.
Okay. I like that concept, paradox. That sounds good.
It is. It's actually really good. It's something just a little bit different. And the other thing is that you score points. There's a little board where you're placing your tokens. When you play a red 3 or a yellow 2, you're placing a token there. And you're trying to create big groups of adjacent tokens. And if you guess the right number of tricks, you get to count your biggest group of adjacent tokens and you get those as points.
Right.
So it's not just winning the number of tricks, it's also trying to get these tokens all bunched up together.
Right.
So there's a lot of thinking going on in this game, and it's really good. And I played it with my daughter Reese, and she actually really enjoyed it as well. And the components are really nice. Card quality is great, really good.
All right, that sounds good. Joe.
Well, this week, quite a busy week in in gaming. I got out to play Lords of Waterdeep with the expansion. That was a cracker of a game. So the ladies headed out and I joined them. They headed out to Club Southside and yes, we absolutely got smashed by Nick. She played
as usual.
There was a bit scary moments. We're kind of thinking, why is she hoarding all of these skulls? Like, surely this isn't normal. But there was a method to the madness, and she absolutely. We got it was 220 points or something like that. In the game, so it was quite a big and it actually went pretty quickly, about an hour and a half for a 4-player game. So that was quite good.
That is quick, I think.
Yeah,
I think most of my games of Lord of Waterdeep tend to be fairly long, 3-hour marathons in some cases.
Yeah.
But,
Great Western Trail. So that was a new learn for me, and I really enjoy it. Have subsequently played it 3 times this week. So on BGA as a learner, and then can't wait to get my copy out actually. And then I've had Space Base, It's a Wonderful World, Barren Park. And still learning Scarface 1920, the recent Kickstarter that came out. So I've had
how is that? How is that in terms of the learning curve?
It's a little bit more complex than I thought it would be. Probably I give it maybe 3 3/4 or something like that, maybe closer to 4. The rule book could do with a bit of an upgrade, so maybe if there's ever a second edition, I think it could be tweaked. But other than that, the games trays, the layout, the quality of the print, all of the components, just first class. Like, they put a lot of effort in refinement for this one. Still didn't take as long as Darwin's Journey, which I have heard there are some challenges with components and stuff missing, but this one here, I went all in, and I have a big play mat and everything with it. So and I'm sure that they've left space in the box because all the way that the games trays kind of fit for further expansions. So yes, I can't wait to get that to LXG because I actually think the group will really like it.
How many does it play?
It plays 5, 4 at the moment actually. So yeah, there's 4. But the expansions that are rumored will bring in a 5th one.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, my games that I've played have only been on Board Game Arena, and they pretty much cover what most that Joe has mentioned, because he sadly has been the poor ring-in that... I'm the ring-in. That's the correct way of putting it. I'm the bunny that comes along as comic relief and ensuring that last place is well and truly secured. Although I lie, I did well on one game of It's a Wonderful World.
Oh, you smashed!
Where I think I flogged you all mercilessly, and since then I've not won one other game. But we'll have a look at our thoughts on Board Game Arena in a short while. So we'll move on to our next topic that we were going to look at, and it was one that I covered on one of my YouTube channel videos, where I was looking at just what is our shelf life with our gaming life. In other words, when do you think you would stop playing? Now, in my case, it would be I'm already fairly old. I think I might be lucky to get to 80, but I don't think I'll get there. But the thing is that for me, I don't think I'd ever stop gaming and collecting. But then I know friends of mine who, suddenly, well, not suddenly, but, get married, and their whole perspective on life changes dramatically and they stop playing altogether. Usually that's because their spouse tends to not like their gaming attitudes, or I guess the fact that they're spending too much time playing with their friends rather than playing with their spouse. Is that perhaps the best way to put it, or am I going to get into trouble for saying that? We're not allowed to play with spouses. But yes, it's an interesting thing. And, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, just, when do I stop playing games? So I think I'll probably stop playing games the day I die, I think, because I can just see myself, not that I'll ever get into a nursing home, but God forbid if I ended up in a nursing home, I wonder where they're going to put 1,000 games of mine in the, I can see my little nursing home room being just packed wall to wall with games, and trying to get the other residents to play. It would be highly amusing, to say the least.
But just to put this in the context, right, you've been gaming, since the mid-70s?
Yeah. Since the mid-70s. So I have been
last
gaming...
century? Since last century?
Well, I was going to say BC, but I think too many people, I keep saying, I remember when the pyramids were first put up, but everybody just laughs at me and think that I'm mad. I think mad.
I think, here's my prediction. I don't think you'd walk away from you've been in it way too long now, but
that's it.
I think because you do enjoy quite a lot of the genres, from role playing, D&D, Mantic, you got your tabletop stuff, and your board games. You're pretty much an enthusiast across the board game side of it as well. But and you've had strong associations with the Blind Pig and other gaming groups. For a long time. So I think it would be a bit hard for you.
Well, that's it. I think of myself as a Renaissance man, somebody who will always be there looking to try something new and innovative and keep playing until... Because that's just life. I think that if you don't have a passion with something, I think life becomes a little bit dull and boring. But
Have you ever taken a rest pause?
No, because I just jumped genres. So, when I started out, I did role playing, then I went to tabletop miniatures, then I went to collectible card games, dare I say Magic the Gathering, and some of the others. I did all sorts of, each time it's, we start afresh. And at the moment, board games, although board games have always been something I've played, but at the moment I'm playing more board games than anything.
What is the common denominator between all of those things that keeps you in the general hobby? What's the common thing? Because you do, like I've noticed on Facebook, you started doing miniature painting even, and things like that. What is the one thing?
They're all interconnected as to how I see it. Like role-playing, like for instance, the original Dungeons and Dragons was just an extension of, I think, a set of rules called Chainmail, which was medieval warfare that had a fantasy component tacked onto it. So, anything from they all interconnect, because even with the collectible card games, most of them tend to be based on IPs. I'm very heavy on things like H.P. Lovecraft and the early pulp era games. So for me, they all tie in. So for instance, John Carter, Warlord of Mars. There's role-playing games for it. There's miniature games for it. So a lot of the things that I have an interest in have a tendency to go across each of those genres. So like, for instance, with John Carter, Warlord of Mars, there was a board game for it. There was miniatures. There was, I don't know if they ever went to a collectible card game, but it's just one of those things. For me, they're all connected. They're a hobby, they're a game, and I enjoy dabbling in everything. But so what about you? Sorry,
you go, John.
I was going to change to another participant's
Off you go.
thoughts. So Joe, what about yourself? Do you see yourself continuing to game until you're a grey-haired, whisper beard, wonderful, luxurious beard like I have, gamer?
Look, I would hope so. So I tend to often get in and out of hobbies and pick them back up at some time, because I just take a lot on, and with taking a lot on, you kind of just tend to move from one hobby to a next hobby, and then kind of go, oh, okay, well then it's beekeeping this time, or next year it's, fishing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Type thing. And, having a young child was also part of that journey. So I think so far it's been kind of, this is year 4 for me. And I think, as my son really enjoys board games, and, even more so the tabletop and miniatures. So, being able to get out to take measure and do movements and stuff like that, and like some of the tabletop warfighting stuff, he actually enjoys that. And I wouldn't have thought a 7-year-old would typically enjoy that, but he has his favorite board games as well, and he's really learning the mechanics through that. So I think I've had some good mentors that have kind of shaped a bit of that to try and get your kids involved, and therefore the hobby will continue for the next 10, 15. But then again, by the time he hits puberty, probably it'll be a different story.
You'll be chasing girls then,
probably. But I just look at my new workplace, and I was amazed this week to kind of hear people talk about what they did on their weekends, which involved board games and D&D, and the office pod that you sit in. You kind of go, what? So I think I've got a lot happening in my social circles that will help continue that.
Yeah.
And I think it's at a good balance of not being too time constrained as well, to be able to kind of fit it in.
Yeah.
So far so good. I've amassed quite a large collection over the last 4 years. So I would really hate to not be able to get stuff to the table. But it's I'm really enjoying it. I must confess, I do have periods of time where I go into these lull periods, and I'll try and shift into one of the other. It might be picking up Mantic Dead Zone and playing that for a couple of months, and then moving over to Armada. So I think that's some of the benefits of overdoing. Sometimes you can overdo, and then at least you've got something that you can kind of move slightly sideways. And my miniature painting's the same. Is I won't touch it for 6 months, and then all of a sudden I just pour so much effort in, and then I'm looking for things like, oh, where's that thing? Where's the paintbrush? Where did I put those paints? I'm sure I had some more primer.
I will warn you, Joe. I've started painting my Mantic stuff that's lying around, so there'll be some more orcs coming your way.
Yeah, so indeed. So we'll have it. And what I really do like about, I think that's going to keep me more connected is being able to continue to teach and showcase games. So whether that's at the school, or whether that's at LXG, or whether that's at some of the bigger events, I think that is something that I really, really, really enjoy doing, and I can't see myself giving that up in the near future. So
all right,
that's me.
That's good. Dana, what about yourself? Are you going to be like your 82-year-old mother, still playing, canasta or something?
Well, I must admit, I do think about you and your children, and you've told me that they do come over and play games.
That's it. They didn't to start with. They didn't pay much attention, but now that they're older, they're more than happy to sit down and play a game with their old man.
And I hope that will be the case for me. Look, I've always loved games, whether it be card games or board games. But for me, the most probably the most important thing is not the board games or the collecting, whilst I love to do it, but it's the social aspect of it.
Yep.
I feel, and a friend of mine, actually, Taryn, if she ever listens to the podcast, once said this, I feel like I've found my people, and I don't think I've ever really fit in. I've always been a little bit odd. You know that, don't you, John?
I'm always odd. I'm very odd. Can't get any odder than me.
Yeah, a bit odd. But actually, in board gaming, I've met very similar people, and we can all get together. There's no pressure to have an enlightening conversation or anything like that, because you've got a board game to sort of, I don't know, break the silence. Yeah. And it's been such a joy for me to meet all these people, and I think that is what would drive me more than anything to continue on in this hobby, more than the actual collecting of the games. And whilst I love it, and I'm very proud of my small collection compared to yours, my minuscule collection.
You're making me sound like Smaug from Lord of the Rings. I'm sitting on this massive treasure pile and dare anybody who does it. But yeah, I think though, Dana, you've embraced teaching people new games. And
yeah, I do
think
love
that's one of the strengths that you do have. And considering that you've said that, you feel very anxious sometimes having to go into these social situations. But I think that, hats off to you for doing a really good job of having to learn a game and then teach it, I think is exceptional. And to be quite honest, we need more people like yourself out there in the community who are prepared to do that, because there are so many people who go, yeah, I've seen it on the YouTube, but it doesn't really, I've watched people try to play it, but it doesn't really seem to. You can't ask a playing video, oh, look, can you go back and explain that in greater detail?
Yeah, well, that's true, actually. I've got a few friends who are sort of wanting, these are other mums with children, who thought, oh, I love board games, but simply don't have the the willpower to sit down and learn it.
Yeah.
And they'll say, "Oh, look, I'll pay you. Just come over and teach me.
Right.
Come over and teach me the game," because they simply just can't. It's too overwhelming for them to learn a game.
Mm.
And do you think that might, if they try and learn it and then play it might actually put them off the game?
Well, it hasn't yet. I have taught them games, and they've loved it, actually. And I've taken no payment, I'd let you know. And they've loved it. They've loved the games. They're and you would have probably experienced this with newer gamers, that they're fascinated by the range of games that they never knew existed.
Oh, absolutely.
And that, I think, is one of the biggest things, is that people go, "Oh, there's a game about making wine."
Yes.
It's called viticulture.
Yes.
And things like that. People go, "I'd never have thought somebody would have done a game," or Wingspan's another good one.
Oh, well,
yes.
And Architects. Yeah.
So, and the Estates, wonderful games like that.
No, the Estates.
Sorry, Joe, I've always got to throw a joke in about that, don't I?
Yes.
Twilight Imperium will get them hooked. The Estates will probably.
I'm running a tally of how many times this is mentioned.
Yes.
You should. And
the one that solidifies them in future of gaming is actually Age of Steam.
Gee.
Dear. All right, well, going on the shelf life, we will then change this aspect and have a look at how long do you allow a game that is on your shelf to remain unplayed before you decide, I'm going to trade it or sell it off to somebody. I'm going to start with Dana, because she's the best example of I've got the game. I haven't got around to playing it yet. I'm going to, and then I'll get a little email going or a message going, "John, I'm selling these games. Are you interested in any of them?" Of which I go, "Yes." Now, is Dwellings of Elderdale in there yet? No, damn. But, so how long would you leave something sitting on your shelf, Dana, before you decide, "Oh, look, I'm never going to get around with it"?
Well, I'm grimacing as you.
Grimace.
Look, there are games, and I don't know whether I could put a time frame on it, but I would say along the 2-year mark. That sounds like a really long time, but anyway, I'm sure there would be other people out there that it might be longer or similar time frame, but I'll put that 2-year time frame out there. But it gets to a point where I look at these games, especially if they're in shrink or something like that, which I've taken your advice and started unwrapping them, to trick my husband into thinking that I'm playing them.
Also to check their contents is the main thing.
Well, yes, of course, but that's not my main concern. my main concern is my husband.
Admit it. You have told us that you love the smell of newly or freshly opened games.
Oh my God! They should bottle that smell. It's so good.
And we can
probably make a bit of money out of that.
Oh my God! I love that smell, and the kids laugh at me when they see me smelling the boxes.
Mum's high.
Yeah, that's it.
She's been sniffing board games again. Dad.
And
I can just see them all lined up across the table, and she, cuts them. Cracks them open. It's like a bit of a junkie, crack addict.
Well, before I got my Kallax shelf, they were in enclosed cupboards, these games. And you know what I would do? It had like a door, and I would just crack the door open and stick my nose in there.
Get a whiff. Bit of a whiff.
What a photo of that would say. It's a wonder one of your children didn't snap it on their phone going,
"Oh, they probably
we can embarrass Mum with
have
this."
At some point, but they're used to it now. They're used to all the weird things. They're used to it.
But
anyway, so I'd say about 2 years, but the games sort of get to a point where I'm looking at them and it becomes almost like a guilt thing for me. I think, God, they're here. They're just sitting here. They really should be enjoyed by someone else. And I sort of start to feel guilty about it. And that's when I flog them off to...
Yeah, sad people like me. who just loiter outside your house going...
At bargain basement prices.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so that's it for me, yeah.
Fair enough. Joe?
Well, I went through my earlier acquisition list, and I still do have a couple that I bought and haven't cracked. And you might be surprised on both of these. One is Brass Birmingham Special Collector's Edition version with the extra iron clays. That is still in shrink, and I've got Lancashire and have opened that and then put it back because I recall at the time of buying it would be maybe my fourth or fifth game that I ever bought, and it just looked really overwhelming, and I just put it back. And then proceeded to do the other one is Lisboa. So again, one of the game. Lacerda games that I kind of haven't. I've progressed through Escape Plan and Vinos and On Mars, etc. But I haven't even opened up Bot Factory that came through. So. And I'm sure the listeners will be kind of going, Joe, are you serious? Like, you organise all these Kickstarters, when are you going to play them? Type stuff. But that's So for me, it's historically been about finding time, and then am I going to pick this up really quickly, or do I want to go to Dana's or to John's for them to teach me? But after experience, I teach at Barron Park, I'd probably suggest not.
Oh, you loved that game, Joe. You did so well.
Oh.
Dana and I thought it was magnificent.
I thought it was wonderful.
Pat flogged us mercilessly. Oh, dear.
Tetris games. Oh,
I love Tetris games, the puzzle ones. So you don't like patchwork either?
No, I would say my favourite genre will probably be economic. Yep.
And trains, anything to do with trains.
Anything 18xx and 4x games, so exploit, exterminate.
Joe, does it? Do you feel better or worse, or it doesn't affect it? If you sort of have the game, say for example Brass Birmingham that's unopened, but you're playing up someone else's game. You have it in your collection, but you're playing someone else's game. Does that affect it? Does that affect you at all?
No, I don't think it does. So let's just take Great Western Trail. So I got that as the second edition. Had a look at first edition, that was on my list, and then having subsequently played the two of them, I'm kind of going, I actually think I prefer first edition, and having had a chat with a few people. There's certainly I think the pros are more in the favour of the first edition, but it only made me even more determined to go and get the box out and rip it open and kind of go great. I think the other thing is LXG and the stuff that they're running with comps and the opportunity for us to meet fortnightly and take in a whole stack of games is also probably a way that I'm going to get, to open up some of them as well. So, but it's more of a balance of, am I tempted to follow the hotness, and as soon as the Kickstarter lands, I open it and I go through and it's hitting the tables there and then. I've never been really one to follow the hotness. If it looks appealing, I'll buy it. A lot of the Kickstarters I do kind of end up leading, and I'll typically go in with it, but there's a lot that I do pass up. But then I've got some great, and I know that Brass Birmingham is a great game, and it's a Martin Wallace game. For those that aren't aware, he also did Railways of the World and Age of Steam. So
did you tick that off, Dana? He mentioned railroads.
Railways.
Yep, railroads. Yep.
Yeah.
Age of Steam.
Definitely. Yep.
I'm already up to 3.
Yeah, up to 3. But so Yeah, I don't get fazed by playing another person's copy. Like if anything, if I don't like it, then I can actually then sell it as, brand new. But I don't often sell games. That's my problem. So I have bought a couple of Kickstarters. I think how many games have I sold? Maybe 3 or 4, to be honest.
I'm wondering if the effort of selling them and have people responding, and then you're having to respond to people, and then sales fall through. Does that become overwhelming to you in terms of selling, or you just don't like to let things go? Or
no, I just think I want to play a game more than twice before I make up my mind whether I like it or I don't like it. But then I've got a whole bunch of games that I've seen on Marketplace, and a lot of my purchasing is more coming from Marketplace now, where I'm looking for a pre-loved copy and it's not overly expensive, and there might be a person, say, down in the ACT or Victoria that is, giving, I might buy 6 copies, 6 games from them, type thing that I've had an interest in, and make better savings out of it. But I'll probably suggest that if there's games in that lot that I've kind of played or I haven't played before and I want to explore, then I'm not too worried. I think there's plenty of avenues. There's BrizCon, there's LXG, and there's Marketplace that I could just, take 10, 15 games if I really wanted to and just sell them. But I am known to be a collector, though. I've always been collecting some form of cards or bits. So that's my problem is I'd say, more of a hoarding disability.
Now this is interesting because, John, I have never known you to sell a single thing.
That's quite right. I don't. I part with nothing.
Is that
my house is becoming too small now?
Is that because you are very considered with your purchases? You don't buy things, I don't think, generally on a whim. No,
usually I've played the game, or somebody's selling a game so cheap that I've gone, look, I'll get it. I might eventually get to play it. I tend to look for a lot of the older games that were printed in the 90s or even the 80s. And certainly from my youth, when I used to play a lot of tactical war games, the Avalon Hill and the Battle Line and all those range of games. So for me, I hang on to it because one of the adages that I always say to people is that, people say, oh, look, 3 of us have each got a copy of, say, It's a Wonderful World. The group that we've got, look, we all don't need to own it. Look, sell your copy and buy something else that the group doesn't have. Well, what I've tend to find that because of the length of time I've been playing games is that the people that I knew 40 years ago that I played with, I don't know them anymore. And so consequently, I've lost access to a lot of the games that I deeply regret not having bought. And for me, I buy it, stick it in the collection because I'm damn sure somewhere along the line I will find somebody who'll go, oh, I've always wanted to play that game. I see it's on your shelf. Because I do have people who turn up to come play games at my place and they'll go, oh, I haven't played that. Can we play that? And usually I'll go, that's wonderful. Jason, please teach me the rules. So I am dreadful at, sadly, at teaching these days. My capacity to lose a thread when it comes to reading rules is not good. So, but for me, I hang on to everything as much as I like. The only way I've lost anything in my collection has been through our infrequent flooding events, and my place gets flooded, and I've now solved the issue. But when I first moved into my home, I wasn't aware that being at the bottom of a hill and opposite a creek, that I'd have water issues, and consequently lost quite a lot of stuff that I've never been able to replace. But yeah, for me, I would not literally part, even if I was absolutely desperate and needed money or whatever, I'm afraid I might sell my wife rather than my board game collection, I think. So no, I didn't say that, people. I would never do that. I do not condone slave trading. That is definitely no. I would not do that, as amusing as it may seem. But yeah. All right. Well, our next topic is that we've all become rather enamored with Board Game Arena. And I'm going to blame Joe, because he was the one who started it all off. And I know, Dana, you've been playing on it for a while, but yeah. Joe suddenly went, "Oh, have you done anything with Board Game Arena?" And I went, "No." And I went and had a look at it. And then I found that, I can't access these games. Well, I can if I got somebody else who's got the subscription to do it. But, I think it was about $47 Australian for 12 months subscription. Mm. And I just went, oh, look, it worked out to $3, just on $4, I think, a month to do it, rather than just buying the monthly subscription, which was almost twice the price, I think, about $7.99 or something like that. So I've found it quite good, because generally in the evening now I'm finding that people we're sending out messages to each other going, "Oh, do you feel like a game on Board Game Arena tonight?" And I find that Pat, who's joined our little cabal of online gamers, he is quite keen to join us. Now, while I like the online gaming, I think it's more a convenience, and I do that because it's easier to get in contact with people and play on the whim, but I still prefer in-person gaming. So sitting around a table and getting thumped in the arm by Dana when I've done something wrong, or she's making a point, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And then I overreact and I go, "Oh, the pain!" I do a Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. "Oh, the pain of it."
I'm sorry.
So, but yeah, no, I've really started to enjoy that, because honestly, those games, like we played, what was it? It's a Wonderful World, and we've 4 of us, and I think we're getting through it in about 18 minutes? Certainly under 20 minutes.
Yeah. And
the lovely thing I love about it is the fact that it calculates all your scores, so you're not sitting there going, oh, and of course the biggest thing is, as Pat always says, "John, you can't cheat while playing in this game." And I go, "What do you mean cheat?" He says, "Oh, well, you do things that you're not supposed to." And I said, "Yeah, but that's old man bad memory. I can't remember if I'd moved my piece or not scored on this." So it's really good in that respect, that you really can't do incorrect moves or misinterpret a rule, because the system itself is quite rigid in that regard. So for me, it's the perfect evening game to wind down amongst friends. I think it's just the right thing, and I leave the weekends for my heavy gaming. So what do you think, Joe?
Look, I agree with you there, John. I think it offers a lot of convenience, and let's take It's a Wonderful World. The drafting takes time in a normal game. Getting the resources and allocating them takes time. So anything you can kind of turn it over in 18 minutes, and then you might play 2 or 3 consecutive ones. I think it helps you learn the game and learn the cards, for example. So you become a lot more familiar. So when you do probably hit the group and you're at an event day, a game day, LXG or whatever, you probably feel a lot more comfortable. Your expertise in the game. I think that's what the benefit also does. Having played, Great Western Trail a couple of times now, you learn the iconography, and it just speeds things up in your mind to kind of process. So I really think it's got a place. I am surprised at how many games are in there and how many they keep adding. I think it's quite affordable, considering other vendors in the gaming space will sell an edition for $40 or something like that on another platform. And I just, whilst, I might have played BGA quite a lot during COVID, it dropped off post-COVID because we were all released and we all got to kind of go face-to-face. But, I've had, over the last couple of months, a new job, more travel commitments, the children's play schedules and sport schedules are all different. So it's been quite convenient for me to kind of pick it up over the last couple of weeks and apply it. How about you, Dana?
Well, I've been playing on BGA for quite some time, and it was really just at the time I got onto it because I didn't have a big social circle in gaming. So it was just really a way to play games and also learn them as well, but to play games and to sort of keep in touch with the very few people that I knew. If I have a look at the friends that I have on BGA, there's only about 6 of them. And I've been playing for about 2 years, so I don't know what that says about my social skills, but anyway.
That's only an electronic version. That doesn't include all the wonderful people you know, Dana. And there's a lot. But
so it was a good way just to keep in touch. Like I would play with met a lady a long time ago now, and we would play during the week, and then until we saw each other again, we would play a few games online. And I actually, most of my online gaming through BGA is not real-time gaming, it's turn-based. So I just play my turn and check in when I can.
Until you forget you're doing cooking and then you've forgotten about the fact you were on altogether, wasn't it?
Oh, no, that's real-time gaming. And
real-time.
It can be, because, look, to be honest, that it is quicker. Like, for example, Wingspan with 3 people might take an hour and a half or something like that. And I have a tendency to wander in between turns and then I forget. And then I've been, what do you call it, when you get ousted or whatever?
You get blacklisted.
And I'll get blacklisted and then I'm going to get my score up again so that people don't think I'm bad. But anyway, yeah, I do mainly turn-based and I enjoy it. I do really enjoy it. It's probably the first thing that I do when I look at my phone is playing games. And the quality of games, it's not like a computer game. It's not like Tetris. It's thinking. It's really still very challenging. Like I've been playing, I'm not sure if you know, but Ark Nova's just come onto BGA. And I actually really love the game, but man, that game, when I play 3 to 4 players, it's hours long. It goes for hours, and you probably heard that complaint about the game, but it goes for hours and hours. Just playing it turn-based makes it more accessible to me because people don't want to sit there for 4 hours playing a game.
Yeah.
So it's very, very good like that. I do miss, though, the social aspect of it. I mentioned that about gaming, that is the main draw card really for me. And so you don't have that. And what I've really enjoyed, because we've been playing real time in the evenings, it's really good that we can communicate, whether it's via Discord or Messenger. That is really good because we still get the banter. And
which makes it. I found that to be, quite good, except when you find that, like for instance, Pat doesn't use Facebook, so it means that we're really restricted to having to use Discord. So you sort of, but then he was quite happy to, to interact just through the keyboard. So, but yeah.
But that definitely really changes the.
Yeah, it's been quite good. It has indeed.
Yep.
Have you ever jumped on BGA though and picked a game that you don't actually own and then tried to kind of go through solo or just kind of play it just to see what it's like and then decided to, purchase the game or I really hate it?
I haven't done that yet. I think because once again, you need to have a group of people that you're prepared to play the game with that would be agreeable to an extended time to play the game, because everybody would all be learning how to play the game at the same time. So it's it's one of those things, like I don't know. Let's say, for instance, I don't know if it's there, but say Lisboa. I've never played it, don't know how to. So I'd prefer to play that with, for instance, yourself and Pat, say, for instance, and we work our way through how to play the game together would be, for me, is what I'd be looking at, rather than jumping on and, going, oh, look, I haven't played Great Western Trail. I'll do that and then have, 3 other or how many other people join in and play, and find that, I'm holding everyone up because I don't know what I'm doing. And that sort of diminishes your enjoyment of the game, because you then go, well, really, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm clearly playing this game badly, when, it's probably not that in actuality at all. But
I play with another lady, one of my very few friends on BGA, and we will often play games that we together, but we have the understanding that we don't know how to play it, and we'll often play games that we don't know how to play, and we'll literally be taking turns. This is turn-based again, but clicking buttons really, and I mean the advantage
and trying to work out
how to play it, and it might take us 3 or 4 goes to work out how to play it, but we do eventually work it out, and it is handy because on BGA you'll often get little hints about what you can do on your turn, because certain things will be highlighted or something like that. An example is Earth. I don't know if you've heard about that game before, but it came out on Kickstarter, and it's still for pre-order at the moment, but we've learnt to play that, and actually we've really enjoyed it. Once we learnt how to play it, it's actually been a really good game. It's a great game. So I actually find it quite good, and I'm actually, most of the time if I play it a little bit on BGA, I can probably teach it.
Yeah.
So I find it useful, as long as you have the understanding that you don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
When you start.
I never know what I'm doing, which is why I always come in last place. So I'm more than happy to be tail end Charlie. So that's not too bad. All right. Well, we're getting close to the end of the podcast, and I've been threatened. Some people want to ask me questions, which is a bit of a worry. So who wants to? The ringleader, Dana. What are your questions?
Well, they're very simple questions, nothing too intrusive. Yeah. Not yet. I'll save that for another podcast.
Oh, that's fine. I prefer pink.
But can you remember the first time that you thought, I really love gaming? Do you remember that, or do you remember maybe holding or experiencing a specific game or something?
For me, it would have been back in the 1970s. So, because I had a very strange mother that wouldn't allow me to integrate or mix with other people. She was obviously afraid that I'd learn new things and stray from the family. But for me, it was I grew up with a lot of the the books that were were popular in my time. So I had things like Biggles and H.P. Lovecraft and a lot of the authors that people today tend to find a bit of difficulty with. So for me, it was those books led me to look like role-playing was my first major avenue in playing games. I started off as a role player and then progressed to miniatures, but throughout all that period of time, there was always everything else that I dabbled in. So, because as I think I said earlier in this podcast, is that there's so much commonality between the books and the media that I consumed. Like, for instance, in the early days, we had a a magazine called Military Modelling, and it gave us things of, how to build tanks and to build aircraft or things like that. And they actually started to include in there a war game section, and that introduced me to miniatures and all sorts of things like that. So for me, there was that, and also the fact that my grandfather was the general manager for Hobby and Toyland. So I was exposed to all aspects of the hobby in the 70s because, my grandfather was, there was a store at Garden City. They had one at, I think there was one at Chermside. They had one in the Valley. I can't remember how many others that they did have. I think they might have had one out at Toowoomba. I'm not too sure. But they were, Hobby and Toyland was one of the biggest, or one of the bigger toy company, or, game shops at the time. So for me, exposure to games started really early in life because, any of the stock that used to get returned to the shop as, parts missing or damaged, I'd be there eagerly awaiting to see what I would get. I learnt how to build model aircraft, tanks, and all sorts of kits without instructions. I was very good at that. But it started very early, and that was. So
how old?
Answer the question. I waffle, and I tend to forget where I'm going.
Would that have been in your teens? Is that what we're talking about, or earlier?
Yeah, no. That would have been early. When would that have been? About 11? Yeah. 11 or so? 11 or 12? And so, because 74 was when Dungeons and Dragons came out, and that was a massive change. But I found that in the 70s, most of the kids that I went to school with were more interested in, dare I say, drugs, sex, and rock and roll was the thing for the 70s. So trying to say, hey, look, let's use our imagination and play in dungeons. And they just look at you as though you'd grown a third head and gone, oh, yeah, you're queer. So we were the nerds in those days, or certainly I was a nerd.
Yeah.
So.
That was my next question. You just stole my thunder.
Oh, is it?
I was about to say, well, do you think you're a nerd? I was about to say that. Do you classify
in those days? Yes,
Are
most
you still one?
Definitely. Because I didn't fit into society back then because I wasn't interested in cars. I was certainly interested in girls, but no girls were interested in me because my mother kept scaring them away all the time. So, for me, it was. It was interesting because I liked books. I wasn't really interested in sports. I played tennis competitively for the school, but that was about the extent. I wasn't really into a lot of. Well, let's put it this way. I think my mother chose all the sports that required only one other opponent. So, hence tennis or squash or. Like I was keen. I wanted to play cricket like my father's family did, and no, can't do that. Not allowed to do that. So that was very strange. Very strange mob.
Do you think that? I don't know. Like, do you think that that was your gaming, your interest in gaming, was a way that, or a contributing factor to you marrying your wife? Because I remember you telling me that Michelle worked in a...
Yeah, my wife worked. Sorry, she didn't lurk. She worked in a game shop in Brisbane called ExecuGames. And a lot of the people, like for instance, if you talk to Mark Locks from BrizCon, he can remember my wife. I'm fairly sure Karen will remember my wife. I can certainly remember Karen coming into the shop when finished school with all the other school kids, because we had. I shouldn't say we. It was the shop had Atari personal computer consoles, and the kids had all come in because they didn't have to pay, you see, so they'd be sitting there or standing there playing the games. Mind you, of course, you're having to stick a cartridge into the game console and waiting for it to, read to, the good old days of high-tech 8-bit technology. It was one of those things. So at least my wife knew how weird I was when I courted her, and I must admit our courtship was very quick. I think I proposed to her after 3 months, and then my mother made me wait 2 years before I could actually marry her. So that was
cooling off period.
Well, I think my mother was desperately hoping for that, because my wife came from a very poor socio-economic background. In other words, they weren't knobs. So my mother was very much against me marrying somebody that she saw as beneath my social class.
That was in the days where we used the word common or something.
My mother
used to use that as well.
my mother would always refer to people as peasants. And, well, let's put it this way. If you've ever seen the series with Hyacinth Bouquet, Keeping Up Appearances, that's my mother.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so there's an example. Not quite as bad, but that and Ruth Cracknell's Mother and Son.
Mother and Son.
That was how I saw my relationship with my mother, was that, I was the son that always had to do what she commanded. But, in the end, she was still my mum, even though she drove me insane.
Your turn, Joe.
Oh, a question-wise, look, I hadn't really given this much thought, but
no,
if you had to really pick one of the defining kind of moments that got you into kind of the tabletop side of the business, what would it have been? Would it have been the early introduction into some of the Warhammer / Games Workshop stuff, or would it have been?
Well, the thing that changed my life was my family used to have a unit down at Burleigh Heads down on the Gold Coast, and we would go down there almost every weekend and school holidays. And one of the other residents, a delightful chap called Ted Price, a Welshman, he had his grandchildren come and stay with him. And this other little nerdy bloke introduced me to a game called Empire of the Petal Throne, which was a role-playing game.
Okay.
And my mother cursed his association ever since, because I wanted really just to do nothing else except explore these these fantastic worlds of roleplay, and that was where, in the early days, my main focus was, because I really wasn't allowed to travel anywhere. So for me, fantastic worlds, I've got a vivid imagination, so I've been told. So it's a lot of fun for me, and that was the defining moment. Was this chap? He introduced me to the game. He was really enthusiastic about it for the first time I met him, and then when he came back the next time, he changed tact and was off on another tangent doing something else. Like I'd been waiting all this time for him to come back up to Queensland for, we could do some role playing, and his focus had changed. He wasn't as fanatical as it was when he first introduced me to it, which was sad. But these things happen. So sadly, the bug never left me, and it just got worse and worse as I got older, and of course finding my wife, who worked in the local game shop in Brisbane, and then after that, I got really involved in a lot of clubs in Brisbane. So, I was with Queensland Role Players. I think they then evolved into Club Tanalawn. Then there was Brisbane Independent Gamers. I was with Griffith University Tacticians and Strategists, which spelt GUTS, Guts.
Oh.
So that was that was a group that was running there. So then I had who was it? Queensland
the Blind Pig
War Game Warhounds, anyway, was what their name was. So I've had a lot to do with a lot of clubs. A lot of people will know that I ran a lot of tournaments for the clubs that I was associated with out of my own pocket, because I didn't want... We had problems with... A lot of people had a complaint about event organisers pocketing benefits from sponsors, or making money out of running events,
tournaments,
and I guess I set the standard that, look, I pay for everything out of my own pocket, and my events were very well attended, so people tended to know that at the time. So it's one of those things I've enjoyed. I'm disappointed. I'm sad that the Blind Pig Games Club shut down, but again, the focus. So many of the shops in Brisbane, game shops in Brisbane, were opening up their own gaming facilities, and we just found that we just weren't getting enough people to cover the cost of the venue. So, but yeah, no, I can waffle all night if you like.
I'm enjoying it.
That. I won't even remember what I've said, which is also the problem with advancing age. So every episode will be fresh and new to me, because I'll have forgotten what I've said from the last episode, and I certainly can't remember what I said at the beginning of this episode. But yeah. So, you all happy with those questions? You're not going to ask me anything curly?
Oh no, I think we need to make this.
They'll be curly. They'll be curly next time.
This is going to be a regular segment, listeners.
Fine.
So.
That's fine. As long as this doesn't chase people away. If you are listening to this and you don't want to hear the sad and unhappy childhood of John, that's good. I don't mind having to not talk about myself. But anyway, look, this is about it for today. Hopefully, we might have some new guests on our next episode. And hopefully that will be quite good. I won't say who they are, but they're local people, and that really is the whole focus with this podcast, is that I myself would like more local people involved. International guests, well, nice if they ever notice me, but our main focus really is just on the Brisbane community and getting other, dare I say, real people to join us and talk about what it is that they love about their gaming and what games they've played. So, anything else either of you would like to say before we finish up?
No.
Negatory Ghost Rider.
All right. Well, look, thank you everybody for listening to a slowly, or should I say, creeping time count on our episodes. But thank you if you have listened all the way to the end. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all in our next podcast in due course. So, tooroo all.
Hooroo.
See ya.